Wow, is this month fiery and intense so far? Lots of much needed transformation, emotional release. Did you have an emotional purge last week at some point? Because everyone I've talked to did. It felt like a really big final push in our new direction, right? Kind of like this energy and this push and pull between what we're building that's new and where we have been. Like wanting what we're building and what's new to be here and be already established now. And there's still this kind of like nostalgia from what was or what we left behind coming up around that as we're in this building phase. And it's hard, right? It's hard to be in such a transitional energy for so long. It's hard to build a new, but we all know, right, that it is meant for us, that it's worth it, that it's where we're meant to be or what we're meant to be doing or where we're meant to be going, but we still don't feel like a comfortable groove with it yet. There's still some things to be ironed out, to be worked out, right? And so that's liminal space that we're in, we really have to learn how to love and embrace and find peace and joy within because it's only going to help support us in building the new thing and moving in the new direction. Without, how do I say, without running the risk of like repeating the past in the ways that we don't want, right? Nostalgia is kind of a tricky thing to stay in. And it's okay to feel temporarily, especially if you had to cry it out this past week. Like that's so healing. The body needs to cry from time to time. It's literally our nervous system healing itself and releasing what needs to be released and felt in order to create space energetically, physically and emotionally for the new, right? And I was going to Oh, I forgot to look at the human design of this week, but I've also been noticing that there's a lot of, and I feel like we might have something in gate 17, because there's been a lot of opinions too that are kind of being shared in a really aggressive, fiery kind of way. It seems like the internet's a really crazy place right now because people are just kind of losing, neuroses is really coming out. If you're, especially if you're not creating space to process and feel what needs to be felt, it's gonna come out in some weird, some weird ways. And so it kind of feels like there's a lot of that energy happening at this time as well. Those people maybe, or tendencies and certain people to avoid what's coming up emotionally instead of feeling it, because in feeling it we heal it, and in avoiding it we get neurotic and weird and chaotic as well. Uranus and Gemini now, if we're not really creating space to intentionally heal, process, and reframe the things in our lives that need a mental reframing, then things are going to get really chaotic really quickly. What I was going to say is comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're comparing yourself or your circumstances in any way, it's going to be the thief of your joy. And as we head into the summer, we have Jupiter moving into Leo, bringing us a lot of opportunity for expansion and abundance with joy, right? When we're focused on it, when we again have that mental reframe that is needed in certain ways to transform our perspective, our view on life, and also change what we're focused on that's creating and perpetuating certain things, right? So big energy right now. Another thing that we have coming up this week specifically is Mars on Chiron. Mars conjunct Chiron is kind of like aggressive healing in our identity and our sense of self, maybe related to or through relationships for some of us, and how we really cultivate interdependence. And maybe for a lot of us, desires are merging around having a relationship or more aligned people and connections in our life than we've had in the past. Because it feels like as a collective, our values have really shifted and continue to shift as Venus is a. Oh, wait, Venus is in Gemini. Venus started a new cycle with Uranus. shifting our values as a collective, right, into more heart-centered spaces and wanting those types of connections and places to go and connect on a like real authentic level. That desire is emerging in a lot of us, right? And again, the liminal space of like we want it, but it's not here yet, but we feel it coming, can be challenging. So again, as the message has kind of been for the last few months, focus on your joy, focus on what's exciting you in the moment. We also have another thing I want to say about Mars on Chiron is that we had it 2 years ago, but this time it's at later degrees of Aries. So we're kind of wrapping up identity level healing. And there might be some sort of action we need to take around that this week to in order to heal. Brave, courageous action might be required for us to heal something about whatever has been coming up where you have Aries in your chart the last 7 years and in terms of wounds that have been healing. Another thing we have this week is a Mercury cazimi, which is when the sun is on or conjunct Mercury. We also, right after the Mercury cazimi in Taurus, have a new moon in Taurus. So again, lots of us kind of focused on, most of us focused on what new beginnings and intentions do we want to set and have around values and relationships and money. What is worth it versus what is not. New ways of embodying these things that are healing, these new ways of living that we're stepping into, and just feeling more, I think, starting to feel more comfortable with what we're doing and how we're doing it in certain ways, even if it's not fully emerged or fully clicked into place yet, right? It takes time to build a new life. It takes time to feel like you're in a groove with things, and it feels really intense right now because of all that's going on in the transits. Um, but you know that new life that you're building will be here before you know it. It will feel comfortable and normal before you know it. And right now is a really beautiful space to be in because you get to have intention with what you're doing and how you're doing it and the way that you're building while you're building, which is really beautiful. So, again, mental perspective shift, reframe, choosing to see things differently, focusing on the good, focusing on gratitude, perhaps, and joy as always. So, those are really big themes of this week ahead. We might also be feeling quite the emotional renewal come the middle of the week and onward as well, around the time before and after the new moon in Taurus. And then we have Mercury moving into Gemini, joining Uranus. So lots of focus on, again, mental reframing from an intentional place. And this has been coming up with a lot of my one-on-one clients recently is how to kind of like my practical advice for reframing your mindset, especially in terms of like how we talk to ourselves, because as the South Node has been in Virgo, if you're in my membership and you watched the video that I did on the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, I think it's like an hour long class that I did on this transit. It started in January of 2025 and it's going to be going until July, I believe, until this summer. But as we're wrapping up the North Node of Pisces and the South Node of Virgo, there's all these things wrapping up with how we talk to ourselves mentally, what we listen to, right? And this has been such a big theme, not only with my clients, but also with like people I talk to, it seems like on a daily basis of like needing to really talk to ourselves positively with you are statements more than we listen to ourselves, right? Because we are our own worst critic, that, you know, cliches around that we all know that we're our own worst critics, blah, blah, blah. But what are we actually doing about it to change it, right? And that's going to be a big energy too as we end out this week and more so as we get into next week, which I'll cover at the end. And then obviously in next week's video, but a lot of that, those themes of mental reframing are coming up of talking to yourself positively versus listening to yourself and the negativity that's not even yours, you know, conditioning, how we were talked to as a kid. And so it can be really be helpful to reframe and talk to yourself positively, choose what you say to yourself versus listening to just what's in your head, right? An example from my life recently is I'm a younger millennial. I've kind of struggled with calling people calling things, places I need to call to make appointments or whatever it is. And so last week I had to call this place in town to make an appointment. They don't do online stuff. And it was like, it's my Achilles heel. And I just got over it and I was like, I'm gonna call. I really need to go make an appointment. I really need to make an appointment. I'm just gonna do it. I called them. It was actually really easy. They had to call me back, but I was like, that was a whole other thing. And I was like, instead of being like, oh my God, that sucks so bad, blah, 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 I hate doing that. I was like, I'm so proud of you. This is exactly how I talk to myself in my head. Sometimes I'll do it out loud too. Like, I'm so proud of you for doing that. Like, you did so great. I'm so proud of you for calling, even though it like made you nervous or whatever it was, right? So, like, talking to yourself as if you're like reparenting yourself, it's gonna make a world of difference in your life. It can feel weird at first, but I promise you, the more that you do it, the more that you talk to yourself positively, and you are statements, not fuck the I am. Talk to yourself like you're amazing, you're doing great, and it will change your life, I swear. So, with that, is there anything else I want to say about this week or transits before? No, there's nothing else. Okay, let's get into the horoscopes. Hi, Aries Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your subconscious. There could be something emotionally that comes up around what's been going on in your inner world, maybe related to communication, like we talked about at the beginning, how you talk to yourself internally and externally. And then as we head into Tuesday, something about you might be feeling like isolating the beginning of the week to feel some maybe unfelt things, or discover some I don't know, subconscious things. There could also be some creative inspiration that comes from that too. And at the same time, maybe feeling like a tug of war between what you need to do on a daily basis versus how to take care of yourself and your inner world and process what's been coming up for you within your mental health. But as we get into Wednesday, there's a sense of emotional renewal in your sense of self and in your energy. There's also a big sense of like maybe needing to getting more clarity on how to emotionally dedicate yourself to something that you're beginning at this time, that you're stepping into that's new for you. There could be this really big sense of like, okay, emotional clarity around what you're committing yourself to moving forward. And then also all week that is building is kind of this really embodied healing within your identity, within your sense of self. There might again be some more clarity coming in around what you're doing and how you're doing it, how you're moving forward within this new version of yourself. But there could be something Thursday specifically that's maybe really emotionally triggering around that. It could come through home or family in some way, or could bring up further emotional things to look at that we're still kind of hanging out there. And then also on Thursday, there's a big illumination of money stuff, of values, of possessions. So you might be feeling like purging some physical things or just really getting organized more so with finances, with money. There might be a lot of sudden breakthroughs or insights coming in around money or things related to money come Thursday and into Friday, and really leading up to this new moon in Taurus that we have on Saturday, like I talked about. Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your money, into your possession. So that's really when this kind of maybe emotional clarity comes, or emotional focus is on that part of your life. Come the weekend is really on, okay, what am I doing with money? How am I going about doing it? Does it support my long-term vision? And then there's kind of this sense on Saturday with the new moon of setting intentions around a new beginning you want to have with money or resources in general. That really is more supportive for you moving forward. And there could be something you maybe have to act on bravely or courageously to heal some sort of wound around your sense of self, and maybe how it ties into self-worth or possessions or anything like that. Sunday, there could be more mental breakthroughs, insights around communication, belief systems, patterns, etc., that have been kind of contributing to these identity level shifts, and that trickling out into every other area of your life. So that's how we end out your week, Aries. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Hi, Taurus Rising. We start off your week with the emotional focus on your long-term goals, visions, community, friendship. There could be something you're getting emotionally clear about as it relates to that area of your life. But it could bring up some money stuff or self-worth stuff or kind of maybe like you're purging things or going through stuff to sell in order to get rid of things you no longer need, especially Tuesday. That could come up in a big way of like, okay, this no longer resonates with where I'm headed, with what I want to do. There could also be a sense of that Monday, Tuesday, that contributes to some inspiration or creativity of what you're doing, how you're sharing it. It could come through connections or friends as well. That kind of prompts you to, it feels just like a deep dive and a purge of like your physical things. That maybe like just energetically you feel better after doing that. As we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your mental health, your subconscious. Big focus of your life at this time, Taurus, is really on what's going on underneath the surface with things, what's going on in your inner world, what's going on with your mental health, maybe needing to like really just process things emotionally or have space through meditation or breath work to clear out stuff in your subconscious and your inner world. There could also be some struggles or things coming up around like substance abuse or addiction or anything like that, of like needing to really clear out that stuff that doesn't support your mental health or where you're headed. There could be these kind of revelations and insights building all week related to that as well. You might be feeling like isolating, see, Wednesday, Thursday or so in order to gain more clarity over what you're doing and how you're doing it. Um, Especially on Thursday, there could be something really emotionally triggering that kind of brings up something maybe from childhood or again, subconscious stuff, mental health stuff. It kind of is something that it's been kind of building. There's been awareness building around for quite some time, and it kind of all comes to a head towards the end of this upcoming week. And as we head into Friday, there's a renewal of your emotional focus, but at the same time, it's kind of like you're emerging from a fog, and but there's also this sense of like, okay, now moving forward, what do I have to do in order to build more stability and embodiment with my sense of self and my identity and how I've been moving forward, and that how that plays into these changes you're making with career at the same time. Which leads us to the new moon on Saturday, which is in your area of you, in the area of self, identity, sense of self, your appearance. So there's kind of this maybe, again, mental breakthroughs kind of clicking in as we progress through the week related to your identity and your sense of self and what you're doing and how you're doing it. Maybe even related to stuff with money, values, again, career, what's changing about all that and what you're stepping into or what you're taking action on to be able to do that. Big focus of the new moon on Saturday for you. There could be some trigger or unconscious wound that's brought up that kind of supports that new direction as well and gives you more clarity on again what to clear out of your inner world in order to make space for this new chapter. And then as we end out the week on Sunday, the emotional focus shifts into your money, possessions. There could be, again, more breakthroughs around what you're doing, how you're doing it, physical possessions in a literal sense, in a physical sense, or in a like, okay, this is what I want to cultivate with my life moving forward. This is what I value. This is what I want to do with money and for money, and getting more clarity and insight over what that looks like for you moving forward so you can put it into action if you haven't been already. So that's your week ahead, Taurus. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Gemini Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your career, your reputation, your image. There could be something you're just kind of creatively feeling inspired to do as it relates to career, but it could also challenge something about what's going on with you, your appearance. Um, there maybe could be some like insecurities coming up emotionally around what you're doing and how you're doing it, appearance related or sense of self related. And it kind of gives you an insight into, again, what I talked about at the beginning of the video, like what needs to mentally be reframed Monday, Tuesday, that's a big theme. As we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your long-term goals, visions, community, friendship, social media. There might be this emotional sense of like, I don't know, getting intuitive downloads or insights like suddenly, unexpectedly on what to do or how to do it and move forward with what's really been a focus in this area of your life, like your long-term goals, visions, community, friendships, and kind of feeling more emotionally clear about what you need to commit to or dedicate yourself to as it relates to like taking action in this area, of your life. But Thursday, there could be this kind of thing merging all, or not merging, but building all week with like, I don't know, frustrating connections or realizing like what you truly want when it comes to the people around you and your connections and like maybe how what you've built before doesn't support that. So there might be something you need to do that's different to take action on something in order to have a new life with community, people around you, that kind of thing. But on Thursday, that might challenge what's going on with money or something of that nature. But I do feel like, again, there's kind of this building of wounds being brought up and needing to like take action to heal some sort of community or friendship or identity related, like social media or visibility wound. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your mental health, your subconscious. We have this big kind of activation within that area of your life as well. So there could, again, be like these mental reframes that are coming up for you to get clarity that help you get clarity on what in your inner world or your mental health, your mindset is contributing to what's going on in your life and maybe just some subtle adjustments you can make in order to have more cohesiveness with what you're doing and how you're doing it. That leads us to Saturday. We have the new moon in Taurus in your area of mental health and subconscious. So there could be a lot of downloads you receive, like maybe all kind of like breadcrumbing all week. And by the weekend, there's just a lot of like more clarity and insight and feeling like you know what you're doing and how you're going to go about doing it. And there's maybe more ideas flowing. Like if you've been feeling isolated or just been feeling like you've wanted to remove yourself from like the normal every day or something like that, there's gonna be this kind of over the weekend kind of clicking in of why that has been occurring. So you could, it's like you needed to process something you didn't even know you were processing. And so there's a lot of clarity that comes through that. And it feels like you emerge out of the week with a greater sense of what that was and what to do about it and like how to move forward now, like slow and steady towards what you're building. But there could be something on Saturday that gets triggered through friends or through community as well that kind of helps you to get that break through, right? The what is it that saying? The breakdown comes before the breakthrough kind of thing. So that's kind of how we end out your week. And then, like I said, there's this sense of renewal on Sunday that occurs. So that is your week ahead, Gemini. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Cancer Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your perspective, your belief systems. There could be some emotional clarity about this area of your life you're gaining at the start of the week, and that could be kind of contributing to a sense of creative inspiration or motivation, maybe towards your sense of self or what you're doing to like expand your visibility or be seen more so with what you have been stepping into. There's also just a lot building with career. There's a lot building with your network, your community at this time, and you might be all week getting a lot of clarity on maybe how to like communicate yourself better or anything like that that's going to help with this visibility and this career stuff that's been building for you. But there could be something on Tuesday that comes up that maybe just feels emotionally frustrating around a belief system or a way of seeing life. Maybe something comes up like in your subconscious to look at emotionally or maybe with relationships, money, or values in general. Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your career. There could be this sense of emotional renewal with what you're doing in career and how you're building this thing in career. There could also be a sense of emotional discipline and like needing to kind of take more aligned action with what you're doing and also in a way that's like consistent. So it's kind of like you're getting these how do I say it? You're uncovering what helps your creative inspiration and what to do about it. how to kind of keep it flowing. There's something maybe that some sort of movement or action that supports you in that as well. And Thursday, that's kind of a big theme. Although there could be something emotionally triggering on Thursday that comes up that maybe challenges your identity or your sense of self through career. There could also be, like I said, a lot of triggers, wounds that are brought up related to your sense of self and identity that's tied into your perception, your career, your reputation. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your long term goals, visions, community, social media. And there's kind of this activation as well in that area of your life mentally. So there could be, again, these things you're maybe getting mental clarity around, insights, ideas, things to act on, things to move forward with. And that leads us to the new moon on Saturday that we have in your area of long term goals and visions. There could be a lot of just long term things solidifying in, of like maybe there it wasn't clear before, and now it's kind of getting clear through the wounds, through the triggers, like maybe even a breakdown that comes through those. Like after that, there's a kind of fog that lifts, and there's kind of this sense of understanding or inspiration, or just kind of having more of a sense of like what to do and how to do it moving forward, and like how to remain, like we said, steady, consistent, and dedicated to what you're doing and how you're doing it. Um, and as we end out the week on Sunday, there is a lot of just kind of sudden, there's a lot of, how do I say, opportunity for like sudden insights or downloads around what's been going on in your inner world that's been contributing to what you're doing externally. So that is your week ahead, Cancer. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Leo Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your shared resources, debt, taxes, inheritances, investments. There could be some clarity you're getting around money or financials. Could also be showing up in your like, inner world. There could be some just, I don't know, breakthroughs of healing, emotional healing related to mental health stuff, subconscious beliefs, spiritual practices. There could be things that you're just getting clarity on around that, on what to kind of clear out emotionally to make more space for what you're doing. And then on Tuesday, there could be something that comes up with that maybe emotionally feels challenging to your connections, to social media, to your community, to your long-term goals and visions, and maybe what's getting clear about that you're working on changing or shifting into a whole new relationship with, or a life with and around. Like it's kind of like you pivoted majorly onto this new path, but it was what you knew you wanted to do all along. But it's also kind of like, okay, now that I'm on this path, even though I knew I wanted to do it, like what do I do about it? Does that make sense? So there's kind of this sense of all week of that building, that clarity building around that. And on Wednesday, you could get some sense of emotional clarity around like what you need to just discipline yourself with, especially as it relates to like spiritual practices, or shifting your mindset to be more consistently like positive or grateful, or like more supportive of where you're going, and who you're stepping into as you're heading in that direction versus where you have been, or these identity level things that you had kind of taken on that weren't yours to begin with. And especially Thursday, there could be something really big that comes up around that emotionally, that's triggered kind of like this old version of you. And just realizing like, it wasn't your authenticity. Like that was kind of a conditioned person that you became through your life experiences. And so now you're getting to rewrite who you are. And it's actually more authentic and aligned because it's from your actual free will and your choice, as opposed to like taking on what had happened to you. So there also could be something from that you get insights or receive clarity around as it relates to career and what you're doing there, sharing yourself, sharing ideas or communications. In career as well, kind of activates a lot for you on Thursday. And yeah, there's just a lot of clearing that could happen, maybe emotionally. 2. Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your career. It's where we're going to have the new moon in Taurus on Saturdays in your area of career, which is a whole new opportunity to set intentions and beginnings of what you want to do moving forward with career and what you want to manifest in your career for your reputation over the next 6 months. And it feels like there's a lot, there could be some further wounds or triggers brought up on Saturday around that, but again, it gives you clarity on what to do and how you're going about doing it. And it might even contribute to the breakthrough or the insights you receive as well. And then as we end out the week on Sunday, there is this sense of more breakthroughs, more mental clarity on what we're doing, on what you're doing, how you're going about doing it, the ideas you're sharing, information you're sharing, how you're communicating yourself and contributing and built to building this long-term thing for yourself at this time, Leo. So that is your week ahead. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Virgo Rising. We start off your week with the emotional focus on your relationship. So there could be a lot of just conversations you're having with people about connections or relationships or things like that in general of like I don't know, what's just been coming up for you, maybe even related to work or career. Um, Especially as we get into Tuesday, there could be something about relationships that are emotionally challenging to what's going on with career or your visibility, your reputation in some way. And there could be these mindset things, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, that are coming up to reframe and to just kind of see differently or look at differently. There could be a lot of talk again about connections and relationships in general. But I do feel like because of that, there is some creative inspiration that comes through, or just feeling like I don't know, maybe you have a challenging connection in your life that you realize you need to let go of or just have a different approach to. And so there is like support that comes through other connections in your life, friends, community, social media to be able to do that. It kind of is a conundrum, but it feels like in the moment you're not sure how it's going to work out, but it does end up miraculously, like all kind of falling together and into place. And as we head into later on Tuesday and into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your shared resources, debt, taxes, investments, vulnerability and intimacy. So there's an emotional focus on that in the middle of the week and kind of on maybe needing to spend a little bit more time with your emotional self in order to process certain things. Wednesday, there could be emotional clarity around what about money or shared resources in general you need to just kind of commit yourself to or discipline yourself with. Maybe that's like tracking what you're spending so that you have like certain parameters in place of like you only want to spend this on this and like or if you share resources with someone kind of having that conversation, there's a big emotional focus on that middle towards the end of the week. And there could be some maybe further money wounds or self-worth triggers at an identity level that come up around that on Thursday. Could maybe challenge what's going on with community or social media or long-term goals and visions as well, and like challenge your sense of expansion with that area. Could be a sense of like, I just need to make more money if this is my now vision or my now goal for myself, like how can I bring in more resources to support that? And kind of healing any residual identity level scarcity or fear of lack wounds that have been, a focus of healing for you over the last 6, 7 years. There's also at the same time on Thursday a big activation of your belief systems related to self-worth, values, and money. And as we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your perspective of life, your worldview, your belief system. So there's opportunity to really clear anything else emotionally that's been coming up in that area and see things from a higher perspective. And maybe have more spiritual faith as it relates to what you're doing and how you're doing it. That leads us into the new moon on Saturday in this area of your life, your perspective, your worldview, your spiritual beliefs. There's some sort of intentions you're setting there. Again, the clarity has been building all week, and as we end out the week, and we get into this, we have the new moon on Saturday. There is this sense of like, okay, here's what I want to do and how I want to go about doing it, and really in an embodiment level identity healing. um, there might be something you have to bravely, courageously take action on as it relates to that as well. And we end out the week with mental focus and emotional focus shifting into your career and your reputation, your visibility. So there could be something about that you're receiving breakthroughs around related to like what has come up all week leading into Sunday. So that is your week ahead, Virgo. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Libra Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your day-to-day work, routine, physical health. There could be a lot of creativity coming at the start of the week around work, around career, around what you're doing to take care of yourself as well, and kind of balancing work and health. There could be some emotional clearing that comes up for you as well at the start of the week, specifically early Tuesday. Could be something coming up emotionally around like work or health that challenges what's going on with your worldview, with maybe some goals that are emerging related to learning something new or teaching something different than you have before. Could also be international stuff or just like a higher perspective. It feels kind of like emotionally challenged. You're emotionally challenged to see something differently and to see outside maybe what your worldview or your belief systems have been previously. As we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your relationships. There could be some emotional clarity that comes about with relationships on Wednesday of like needing to dedicate yourself more to something or needing to speak your mind more than you maybe have been before, or just kind of share some emotional grievances or things as it relates to people in your life or relationships. And there could also be a sense of emotional clarity with like how to discipline and commit yourself to what you're building with relationships in a way that maybe you hadn't had clarity around before. But on Thursday, there could be something really emotionally challenging that comes up with relationships. There's really an opportunity to be incredibly emotionally triggered on Thursday with relationships or with a person or other, maybe multiple people in your life. Kind of bringing out these, again, deeper identity wounds and how you've handled relationships in the past, and kind of a final closure moment of not moving the same way you have previously with relationships in your life. Because you've changed so much, and the people you've attracted now at this point are way different than who you used to. So you can't have the same identity with your relationships, right? So it's kind of like fully grieving or letting go of the old version of how you would have handled this. Because that's not who you are anymore. That's not who the people around you are. Thursday, also, there's a mental activation of resources, shared resources, money, debt, taxes, inheritance, investments. There might be some mental kind of activation or clarity in that area of your life as well. And that kind of is where the focus shifts Thursday into Friday is into your shared resources. So maybe you're getting emotional clarity on money stuff or shared resources with a partner or investments or anything related to money that's not yours, quote unquote. There's a lot of mental clarity around. There's a lot of emotional clarity around. There might even be some, again, some more grief that comes up emotionally to clear out related to money or worth, values, relationships. And that leads us into the new moon we have in Taurus on Saturday in this area of your life on shared resources. So, what new beginning are you setting with money? Not only your money but investments, other people's money. Share if you share, again, share resources with anyone. There's a big opportunity to set new intentions and have a new beginning with this area of your life, and how you want to handle that moving forward. And there could be some further relational triggers that come up as well, maybe even related to that. And again, it just kind of feeds clarity on what you want to do and how you want to do it moving forward. And there's a sense of feeling more embodied with it as well. And that leads us to the end of the week on Sunday. The emotional focus and mental focus for you, Libra, shifts into your higher perspective, into your worldview, into your belief system. So there might be some breakthroughs or mental clarity that comes through the wounds, through the triggers that are brought up. It's kind of like breadcrumbs of clarity come as the week progresses, and then as we end out the week, there's kind of this sense of like, okay, here's how I'm doing it, and here's my next steps, kind of thing. So yeah, that's how your week goes, Libra. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Hi, Scorpio Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your dating, romance, creativity, children as well. There might be this kind of renewed sense of what you're focusing on as it relates to your creative projects or spiritual pursuits. And there could be a lot of inspiration coming at the start of the week. Although Monday, Tuesday, it could challenge what's going on with shared resources. And there's kind of this need to just speak from in a place of self-love with what's going on, especially in relationships. But just know that there could be some grievances or challenges emotionally for you around that, maybe early Tuesday. As we head into Tuesday night and Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts into your day-to-day work, your routine, your physical health. And there could be a sense of like getting clarity, especially Wednesday, on what you need to commit yourself to when it comes to like your routine, what you can actually do versus is just not for you anymore. There could be a big release that comes about with what you're doing on a daily basis for work or to make money, especially Thursday. I mean, there could be kind of a make or break point is like if you maybe have been ignoring like your need to do something or change something and release something about work at an identity level, it kind of like there's a big emotional purge that could come up Thursday, that kind of forces you to shift what you're doing and maybe fully release it for good. Um, and just let go of something in a major way so that you can commit yourself emotionally to what fulfills you instead of what drains you. Also on Thursday, there's a mental activation within relationships, so there could be some clarity about that related to like what you're doing to expand your sense of self and worldview, and also, like I said, how you nurture your creative passions and spiritual pursuits. Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your relationships. So there is a lot of emotional focus on the people around you, your partner, if you have one, or just people in general in your life, and getting more clarity on like what you want that to look like moving forward, especially over the next 6 months. As we head into the new moon on Saturday, we have in this area of your life, there is a opportunity for a lot of mental clarity on what intentions you want to set or have with people in your life moving forward, and maybe that you want to kind of create intentionally over the next 6 months. Also, on Saturday, there could be some further triggers or identity level wounds brought up with work or with routine, or with physical health. But it's kind of like, again, what needs to be let go of and released, and how is this helping you to get more clarity on what you can make space for to step into this new thing. And as we end out the weekend, there is this sense of kind of emotional clarity and renewal with your mindset as it relates to all of this that's been coming up. And there could also be some positive emotional shifts and transformations that you kind of receive, maybe suddenly, like breakthroughs. As well, with related to what you're doing and how you're going about doing it. So that is your week ahead, Scorpio. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Hi, Sagittarius Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your home, family. Monday, Tuesday, it kind of challenges what's going on with relationships, values, within relationships. There could be some sort of emotional clearing that comes through about your inner world or home and family related to relationships in some way. But I also feel like this is creating the space to have an emotional clearing of like past patterns from childhood or family wounds or money wounds or like other relational, deep, intimate, kind of vulnerable wounds. It creates a space for those to be cleared out emotionally. So you really like heal whatever maybe was you didn't even know was in there to heal. So you can step more into expansion, especially Tuesday. As we head into Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts onto your dating, romance, children, creative passions. So there could be this sense on Wednesday of like emotional clarity around what you're committing yourself to in regards to all of that. What you can handle versus what you can't emotionally, and maybe there's a sense of emotional discipline that comes about as it relates to that as well. Of like, okay, this really fuels my creativity, so I need to make a point to do it every day kind of thing. Thursday, There could be something about that that's really emotionally triggering. There could be some wounds coming up, identity level wounds related to dating, romance, sexuality, maybe even children or creative passions, projects, that kind of at an identity level, there's a need for you to really emotionally clear out. Could come up kind of aggressively and not feel super comfortable. Could maybe even affect work or what you're doing, communicating, sharing, talking about as it relates to work or your physical health, but could create the opportunity for a positive shift in your physical health, like clearing something you didn't realize was there. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is what that was. Now that I know what it is, I can shift my mindset around it, or I can do things to help heal it, support it in healing, right? So there's a lot of, even though there's like these kind of emotional frustrations that come up towards the end of the week, there is a lot of clarity that comes through them as well. Friday, there's a big sense of emotional transformation. It maybe is challenging to your communication or your day to day, again related to work. But it does feel like again that creates the space for you to get clear on what to evolve that is needed for you in order to move forward. And then that leads us into Saturday. We have the new moon in Taurus, in your area of work, physical health, day to day routine, schedule. So there's this sense of like now that you have more clarity, what intentions do you want to set in this area of your life to maybe manifest or create more of an embodiment or more financial opportunity for yourself around over the next 6 months. As we end out the week on Sunday, there is a sense of big breakthroughs and clarity and insight that come around work and also maybe around relationships. So that is your week ahead, Sagittarius. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Capricorn Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your communication, your how you're sharing ideas, information, your creative inspiration or what? Spiritual pursuits. Also on your mindset, like how you're communicating to yourself and others. It feels like there's a lot of emotional clarity around where you're headed with that and maybe how to move more into the new direction you're having there. As we head into Tuesday, there could be a sense of emotional harmony and maybe creative inspiration that comes through your routines or comes through people in your life. It kind of feels like you might be really creative or inspired by something on Tuesday that fuels this new direction that you're headed with everything. As we head into well, hold on first. Also on Tuesday, that could put some challenge or tension on what's going on with work or what's going on with what you're doing for money or how you can or how there's a lot of busyness. So it's like how are you balancing work and health in a way that feels good to you? There could be some emotional challenges around that Tuesday that help you to evolve that area of your life. Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts into home and family. You could be really focused on your inner world or your home, making it better. I don't know, setting intentions to like be more dedicated to what you're doing with your living situation or with family. There could also be a need for you to set boundaries in this area of your life, depending on how it's showing up for you personally. There is a big sense on Wednesday of emotional like discipline with home and family in some sort of way. And then as we head into Thursday, that could directly challenge what's going on with relationships or what's expanding about people in your life. And there could be a lot of emotional triggers that come up in a maybe aggressive way on Thursday, from home or from family in some way or sense related to an old version of you, related to these kind of identity level wounds that come through your childhood or come from family, or maybe living situations even too. And so there's a big need, things come up for us to clear. We can't clear until we see, and things have to come up so that we see them, so that we heal them, right? So that's kind of the energy. Is more identity level, kind of like a last hurrah of emotional identity level healing in a kind of aggressive way. As we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your creative passions, dating, children. creative projects and things. So there is this sense of getting more like you cleared the way for something, and there might have been a lot of like blockage of your creative passions or projects or pursuits and things, and it kind of feels like as we end out the week that whatever came up that was triggering healed like and created space for more creative inspiration to come through, and maybe positively helps you evolve something with money as well. That leads us into the new moon we have in Taurus on Saturday in this part of your chart, in this area of your life, creativity, creative passions, projects, pursuits. There could be something with that, or children, dating that you're setting new intentions around and want to manifest over the next 6 months. There could be also a lot of mental clarity around creativity, or children or dating. Big activation mentally there too, maybe having more conversations about that or just feeling creatively inspired. And then there's a lot of like, even though there's things that are aggressively triggered and wounds brought up, in various ways this week, there is a lot of sense of just freedom and clarity, and inner peace that comes from that, even though it might be challenging in the moment. Like afterwards, it's like, oh, I feel different. So that's kind of how we end out the week for you, Capricorn, is this big sense of mental clarity and breakthroughs as it relates to creativity, work, health, at an identity level. So that is your week ahead. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Aquarius Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on your money, resources, possessions. There could be something about that you're getting emotional clarity around as it relates to creativity, your spiritual pursuits and things, maybe a direction you're headed with money or with finances in general, maybe related to dating or creativity or children in some way. But on Tuesday, that emotional focus on your money and on your resources could challenge what's going on with dating, or relationships in general, maybe creative stuff as well. But I do feel like there is this sense of creative inspiration, on what you're doing with work or how you're making money, and maybe stepping into a different direction with creativity or spirituality. Especially on Tuesday, there's a lot of emotional harmony between those two areas of your life, like money and work and physical health. Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts into your day to day, what you're doing, who you're talking to, where you're going. And there's a sense of maybe emotional discipline that comes about on Wednesday with like what you need to do on a daily basis and commit yourself to, maybe new habits, new routines, that are more supportive for you and more healthy for you, and kind of support this new identity that you're shifting into, that you're healing, maybe for the first time, in a really massive way. And it just further supports these identity shifts and also supports how you're sharing yourself. How you're sharing ideas, communicating yourself to others, as well as like the internal communication, like we talked about at the beginning of the video. There's a big focus on really disciplining yourself with a new form of communication that's more embodied at an identity level. Thursday, there could be something really emotionally triggering that comes up related to that. That kind of is comes up for you to clear emotionally. It might be helpful to have an outlet for anger, or feelings that come up for you, like a healthy outlet to feel what comes up. Because it could emotionally challenge what's going on with work or what's expanding about work or health, as well. But at the same time, there is a mental activation of what's going on with home or family. It's kind of like, again, I feel like this has been such a huge theme for you, Aquarius, of like healing these kind of inner level things, these inner world things in a really big way. And there's kind of this final push of an emotional healing that happens within your inner world this week. Friday, the emotional focus shifts onto your home and family. You could be really processing some emotional things, or just getting more clarity on what home and family you want to look like, especially maybe something you're focused on setting intentions to build right now over the next 6 months with this new moon we have in this area of your life on Saturday. The new moon is really calling for you to set intentions and have some new beginning with home and with family, that's more embodied and more aligned with what you want to do, moving like your lifetime goals, or this identity level shift that's also occurring for you at the same time. On the same time as this new moon on Saturday, there could be some further triggers or wounds that come up with communication or habits, mindset, things like that. And again, it's just this last hurrah of something really big being triggered so that it clears out and makes way for what you're doing. That's new, that's different, that's what you actually want to be building, as opposed to just like living in the same life that you don't resonate with anymore, right? Like a ghost in your own life. It's like, okay, we're done with that. And how do I build, what do I do to build this new life so that it's intentional? And so it feels like there's a lot of breakthroughs that come around that as the weekend progresses and as we end out the week, especially there's this kind of emotional shift and mental shift into your creative passions, dating, children, romance, and feeling more kind of feeling lighter about stuff. So that is your week ahead, Aquarius. Let me know how that resonates with you in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Hi, Pisces Rising. We start your week off with the emotional focus on you. There is kind of this sense of emotional renewal that happens at the start of the week. Um, Gathering more, how do I say, emotional clarity around you and where you're headed and what you're doing. That's more embodied, and connected to this new version of not only your life but yourself in a major way. On Tuesday, we have some emotional harmony between you and your creative passions and projects. So there could be this feeling of creative inspiration on Tuesday related to what you're doing and how you're doing it, but it could also challenge something about home or family related to finances or something, in some way. And it just kind of comes up for you to evolve your perspective around it and kind of see it as like, rejection is God's protection, as they say, and redirection. So there's kind of that need to just reframe. Like I talked about at the beginning of the video, for everyone, there's a big need to just reframe how we're viewing the kind of things that are being showed to us, maybe aren't meant for us, or maybe we're being directed to something better, right? Wednesday, the emotional focus shifts into your money, your resources, your possessions. There could be something you get clarity around on Wednesday about emotionally committing yourself to money, or just mm, being intentional with money and possessions. And stepping and like you've been stepping into some new identity with money, or healing things at an identity level related to money, possessions, and your value and your worth. So there's a lot that emotionally comes up around that Wednesday and Thursday, especially Thursday. There could be some big thing around that that's triggered that maybe challenges what's going on with your creativity. Almost kind of like what is that called? The imposter syndrome kind of thing, an imposter wound. But it's like, what even is that? It's not even real. It's like a figment of conditioning or the mind, or right. So again, what can you do to mentally reframe and be your own best cheerleader and to really solidify in this identity that you've stepped into related to what you're doing? That's this whole new life you're building. Instead of listening to the crazy voices in your head, how can you talk to yourself in an encouraging and supportive way that's going to heal you? Um, as we head into Friday, the emotional focus shifts into your day to day, your errands, could challenge something about your mental health or subconscious. There could be this sense of like, oh, you're really busy. So, how do you balance that with taking care of yourself? There's something about that could come up towards the end of the week. There's also a big mental activation happening in terms of your, again, belief systems, communication, where you're going, who you're talking to on a daily basis. Maybe there's a need to like clean that up a little bit and be more intentional with how you're spending your time. Could especially be a big focus of the new moon we have on Saturday in this area of your life. Might be a need to communicate boundaries or something as it relates to that based on the clarity you receive around that. Could also be more identity level wounds brought up in a intense way around money or possessions or values. Again, in order for you to just clear out the residual gunk at an identity level so that there's nothing really leaching from your past into your now and into in creating your future, right? So that's kind of how we end out your week, Pisces. Is a big, how do I say, something's triggered in a big way so that you see it differently, so that you reframe and change. And it kind of leads you to breakthroughs. So trust in, what comes up for you to emotionally clear and feel to heal. Because it is leading you to where you're going, even if it doesn't seem that way. It is. And you could really see that kind of come to fruition by the end of the week. So trust in your process and trust your intuition. That's how we end out your week, Pisces. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. All right, next week we have Mercury on Uranus, like I talked about. We have Gemini season beginning next week. We have Mars moving into Taurus. Gonna slow a lot of us down. Um, but that's also a conundrum because there will be so much in, Mercury being its home sign on Uranus. The sun will be on Uranus. So there's a lot of like, oh, here we go. But at the same time, it's like we got to stay slow and steady with what we're doing and how we're doing it and not burn ourselves out, even though we're going to feel this quickness. It's honestly kind of good. We have Mars and Taurus at the same time as we have all this in Gemini, and then Venus moves into Cancer. So we're going to feel a lot of shifts as we head into is that the third week of May? That's literally insane. Um, we're gonna feel a lot of things shift in ways that are needed, right? But we're also gonna have Venus square Neptune, so just be aware of idealizing people or idealizing things. Trust your intuition. Just be aware of fantasies with money relationships, because there could be some challenges with that at the yeah, come next week as well. We're also going to have Mars square Pluto that will be building next week. I don't think any of that will peak until the week after. But yeah, the I hate to say it, but the intensity continues. I mean, this is different than what we felt before because we haven't had Gemini season with Uranus and Gemini yet. So this is going to be different. This is going to feel different. Um, just keep trusting your intuition, keep trusting what brings you joy. Trust that's all happening for a reason to kind of evolve what you're doing and how you're doing and going about the ways that you're doing things. It's all happening for a reason. But yeah, big shifts next week. So, um, we'll leave the rest of that for next Sunday, but that's a sneak peek. As always, let me know how your horoscope resonated with you in the comments, and I'll see you next time.